Hello, 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 and welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Jameelah, and I am a master manifester, and I'm sure you are too because you're watching content like this. The name of this channel is Holistic Manifesting because I believe in a whole body, whole mind, and whole being experience when it comes to manifesting these amazing lives that we're choosing, right? I had to make sure my mic was on. What I am discussing today is how to remove negativity from your life, right? All right. Let's get started. So a lot of times I get conversations from other people. They send me messages or like direct messages or comments underneath the videos. And they're always discussing how do I eliminate some of the negative energy that's in my life, right? Because sometimes we got to know that we're not always creating the negative energy that we're interacting with, but we're definitely often participating in it, right? So you could be in something like a workplace that's not working out, or an environment, or a workplace environment or something, a relationship or whatever it is that's not working out. And something that people who are evolved or ascending tend to do, or awakening, right? We tend to think, let me take on all of this because I just don't want to be the negative person. So either I'm going to pretend like these things aren't happening, or I'm going to shift and get a new perspective, or I'm just going to be a doormat and take the high road, whatever we choose, right? So we start to realize that removing negativity from our lives has a lot more to do with process and journey than it has to do with sweeping things under the rug or making the environment palatable for everyone to be able to get along, right? So just a quick thing that popped in my head when I thought about this topic was all negativity should never be removed from your life, right? We do own our ability to perceive any situation the way that we choose, but the idea that we won't have these instances in life where something truly rubs us the wrong way, or we're truly taken aback, or we're truly crestfallen, or aggravated, or annoyed, or frustrated, or all that. We don't want to sit and pretend like those things are not negative to us, right? You can work on changing your perspective on them, but they're just going to feel negative until they don't feel negative, right? And so it starts with where you spend the majority of your time. So that's something I scribbled down some notes because this subject is very important to me. So think about this. When you're starting your day and you're moving throughout your day and you're going from one activity to the next, or waking up, getting ready for work, taking the kids to school, whatever it is that you do on your daily basis, what are you doing in those moments, right? How are you spending your time, right? So if I asked you, what are you doing for your 24 hours? What would you be able to tell me about that, right? So a lot of people will be able to tell you that they get up around 7 in the morning, that they have breakfast, they might shower, they might get the kids ready for school, they may not have kids, they might bring kids to school, they might drop off spouse to work or something like that. May not be a spouse, maybe working by themselves, maybe working remotely and just rolling over, opening that computer, because that's a good life. Right? You may be even doing that. But at some point in your adult life, you need to be able to say, in the morning, I spend this much time doing this much time doing that, and then this much time in the afternoon, right? So in the morning, I'm always like 10,000 before 10. That's my own thing. I like to get my 10,000 steps in before 10 a.m. Otherwise, it drags on the whole day and I may not even get it done, right? So I know that in the morning, I'm really not available before 10 o'clock for like other people and their stuff besides dropping my daughters off to school and then doing a few, meditations or some prayers or whatever, but exercising, like that is my time before 10 o'clock, right? And even if I have to do something, I drop in and do that little thing and I go right back to getting that time in. So I can tell you throughout the day where my hours are spent for the most part, right? And I can also tell you there's time that's spent that's being wasted. And we'll get into that a little bit further, right? Another thing is to create a log from morning to night. I know a lot of people don't like to do this, but if you can just use your cell phone or your smartphone for one day and think like, man, I'm going to sit here and write down what I'm doing. So from like 8 to 9 o'clock, I'm in a commute, whatever. 9 to 10 o'clock, I'm just kind of opening up emails, greeting people at work, walking around or whatever. Pay attention to how you feel from 9 to 10 o'clock, right? If that's what you're doing, because then you'll be able to see where it's in that activity where I start feeling the most negative or the most overwhelmed or the most aggravated or the most annoyed, right? And then you can start being more granular and start dissecting those little activities into smaller chunks and thinking like, what is rubbing me the wrong way? Where is this negativity coming from? Why do I feel this way, right? Something big that I noticed in my life was about 6 months ago, maybe to a year, was commuting. it made my life a living hell. And I don't know, some people can do it. They can do it just fine. They can travel for an hour to get back and forth to workplaces and all that. But doing it with children, I thought I was going to lose my mind. I really, really did. Like every moment that I sat in that vehicle for an hour and a half each day, I literally just wanted to crumble up and die. And I know it sounds ridiculous for an adult person to say that, but I've never had anything in my adult life bother me so much as sitting in an hour and a half commute in traffic going to a job. Like I just couldn't wrap my head around why was I in that life. So what I'm saying is that I knew that the majority of my negative energy was coming from those moments. And then it was lingering because throughout the day, I would always think about, oh yeah, it's going to be an hour and a half before I get home. So I can't do this until 7:30. I can't. It was just awful. The worst thing I've experienced in most recent times. Right. And a lot of people have different thresholds for what they want to experience. But for me, never, ever, never going to do it. Won't, not. I don't care. I'm raising kids. I'm going to figure out something else, but I'm never going to be driving an hour and a half to get back and forth to work on a daily basis, right? So nonetheless, I knew that when I honed my attention into that area, that was a huge area of discomfort and negativity. So my number one goal was to first shift my perspective on how I view that time. And as you can see, the way I discuss it now is like I'm flashing back to it. My switch in perspective didn't work that well, but it did get me through, right? Because my daughter was like, I've never seen you meditate and pray and think and journal as much as I saw you do in those last few months. I said yes, because I was really going through some kind of an awakening. Like I couldn't believe what was happening. And so I was just thinking to myself that you have to just keep in mind that even if you try to switch your perspective on it, you don't always get to the other side. And sometimes only changing that physical thing will actually get you the outcome that you want, right? So when we're faced with the situation of, can I change this physical thing, or can I see it in a different perspective? Only you know when one or the other is going to work, right? There are many things that I've reframed in my life that was not pretty at the time, but I reframed it because the new story worked better for me. It was a better outcome, right? Something I reframed a lot is like being a parent and being divorced and not getting all the help and stuff that, all the women are complaining about. It's nothing new, nonetheless. So it's like that kind of thing. I had to reframe it, and I had to think, well, I'm the best person for the job. I get the job done. I teach the wisdom and the lessons that need to be taught. So maybe it is a good thing that I'm doing this by myself. So it was always one of those things where I'd had to switch the perspective, because when you can't change it immediately, you have to find a new way to look at it, right? But then finding a new way to look at whatever's negative and glaring in your life doesn't mean you just gloss over it. It means you start making active steps towards changing it and ascending out of it, right? And sometimes when we get a little stuck and we're not pushing ourselves the way we need to, the universe will step right on in and make something happen, and that situation will be, you won't even have to think about it anymore, right? Another thing is something you might notice in your process. So like, how do you feel when you're opening up your email in the morning or responding to a text from a specific person? You have to remember that sometimes we don't even notice, right? Like there's somebody who I used to work with. I don't work with him anymore, but he was very annoying, and I just don't have any other words for it, right? I work with a lot of adults all the time, and I collaborate with a lot of people, but this guy just rubbed me the wrong way. And maybe it wasn't the case for everyone else, but I found out later that it was. So I was doing this thing and I was trying to figure out, why was I feeling so negative every day? And I noticed that this ping of negativity would hit me hard when I would receive any feedback or any conversation or any correspondence, any emails or anything from this person. Even when they text my phone to tell me things about work, I'm like, don't text me. Send someone else to do it. I don't want to talk to you, right? Because it's like, we got to own this stuff. Some people we just don't mix with, and it's perfectly fine. And so in that kind of instance, I realized, man, interacting with this person is really bringing the negativity on, right? And either I can try to change them or I can try to change myself. What do I have access to? Changing myself, right? So I switch my perspective and I don't talk to them. I stopped talking to them when I was there. I just stopped. I stopped interacting. If it was something that really just had to be done, I sent it almost like an HR report. Like I don't play ball with people that are doing nonsense ever. I stopped doing that a while ago. I think probably this year, early 23 was the last time I played ball with nonsense, and I'm just not doing it. Life is too short to not enjoy it, and to not be involved in things that positively impact your life, right? Another thing is, how do you feel when interacting with certain people? Already mentioned that, but then gratitude. A lot of people don't want to hear this because we always go back to gratitude. But genuinely, when someone asks me about getting rid of negativity or taking negative out of, they want me so bad to say it's the people that's causing it to you. It's the people that's making your life miserable. It's the husband, it's the wife, it's the daughter, it's the son, it's the girlfriend, it's the boyfriend, it's the mom, it's the sisters, it's the brothers, it's the aunts, it's the nieces, it's the cousins. You want me to tell you that it's all of these people around you that's making your life miserable. But I cannot honestly say that, because I know good and well that we have the personal power, the internal power, the inner power to address what we need to address for ourselves and develop and grow. And I'm also a firm believer that this contrast or this negative energy or these negative instances that we have and we're experiencing in our lives, they are teachers. They are teachers to help us create boundaries. They're teachers to help us develop and evolve and grow. And they're also teachers to show us how we are presenting ourselves to other people and how other people feel when they're interacting with us. It's like they're constant mirrors all day. We can only experience life as it comes through our own perspective. While we try to be empathetic and understand other people's experiences, and even if you have an almost identical experience with someone else, right? When you start to dig a little deeper, what's the rule go? 3 questions deep, and you're going to find that you had some type of very different upbringing or outcome or something like that that completely changed the way that you dealt with that situation, even if you dealt with it similar ways, right? So we just have to keep that in mind. Being grateful for these things, being grateful for where you are and what you have and what you are bringing to the table right now, that's the only way to develop and grow and expand, right? The lack of gratitude is like the #1 dream killer. How can you positively impact yourself and others and bring more abundance and more joy and more freedom and more peace into your life when you truly don't even see the joy, abundance, and peace and freedom that you have sitting around already? Because there's always something. There's always something. I don't care if it's a healthy body. I don't care if it's a healthy mind where you can sit down and create a resume or create a business plan or get online and organize yourself and create something and develop yourself into a better person. There's always something in that to be grateful for. I don't even care if it's being grateful for 10 fingers and toes. I've met adults who are missing fingers and toes. And they don't care anymore. But the fact is, I'm happy I have all mine. You know what I mean? Because it's like all these lives, these things that we have going on, is so easy to get blinded by what is not there, by what you don't have, about what not working. And to me, I think that's when your enemies, if you're calling them your enemies, but I call it your own self-sabotage, that's when it wins. That is when it wins, right? So how are you with responding and participating in conversations that are completely against your values? That's another source of negativity for people. I'm always saying to people, it is so much easier to go through a social media feed and scroll past things and be grateful that you don't deal with them, rather than jumping into the nonsense and then thinking you need to share some type of information with people. No, they don't want to know. They don't want to know. Y'all are in 2 different worlds, right? So if you're a pro-life person, get off the websites that are pro-choice. If you're a Democrat person and you don't want to hear anything that anybody got to say about what could be wrong with being a Democrat, I don't know. I'm not even into politics. But then don't go on Republican sites, right? I remember I had a family member visiting me because I don't have TV at my house, and they were desperate to get to the news. I'm like, what's on the news that's so important? And they were like, oh, Trump did this, Trump. Who cares? You know? And so they fought, and this is the thing that you can tell about people. They are not technically savvy, but if you put something like that in front of their face, like there's no news and they can't access it, this person who was up in age sat there and figured out how to use Netflix and I'm sorry, the Amazon Prime stick in a way that I never even figured out. So I'm like, people will do stuff sometimes, and then you have to think about, why am I working so hard to get to this place where it's going to give me nothing but negativity? It's a pattern. You've created a pattern in your life of negativity, and it's just fulfilling itself over and over and over and over again. Somebody says something, I don't like it, I'm offended, I'm triggered, I'm going to respond by being self-righteous. And then on and on again. Somebody says something, I don't like it, I'm going to respond, be triggered, and then respond self-righteously over and over and over again. This is why I had trouble being around people who were vegan back in the day, because it's like they were so self-righteous. And I'm like, dude, get off of sites where people are meat eaters. You don't agree. And the way that you are speaking to the people who are meat eaters, they're not going to listen. So you're not doing it for the good of society. You're doing it to be self-righteous. And there's a difference, right? So stay away from places where you know that you full out disagree with things. Don't try to be the voice of reason, because those are not the places for it. The places for it are the places where people are somewhere in between. And we know when we're in those environments, right? Where the conversation is a lot more free and a lot more open. And then think about this last thing. To get negativity out of your space boils down to me, the gratitude is a huge one, but knowing where it's happening, of course, is what I've already discussed that. Then the last thing is finding value in others at all times. If we're walking around and our goal is to try to devalue others everywhere we look so that we can feel better about ourselves, we're always gonna feel negative, right? Because there's not a world that any of us can live in where somebody's not better at something than what we are in an area that we really care about, right? You're never gonna be the most beautiful to everybody. You're never going to be the smartest to everybody. You're never going to be the most fit to everybody. You're never going to be the most sexy, the most intelligent, the most well-read, the most well-traveled. I mean, these things don't really exist because there's so many aspects of who we are as a people that everybody's got their own lanes, right? There's like 1 billion lanes, 7 billion, 8 billion lanes, right? And sometimes people literally try to jump in other folks' lanes. And that might be okay sometimes, but at least put on your blinker and be cautious. I don't know what I was trying to say with that, but just find value in others. Don't mow over other people just because you just want to pile on and make yourself feel better. And so many people are walking around doing that, and they're wondering why they're at the end of their day, they're feeling really negative and kind of like, because you don't get anything out of that behavior. Belittling others, taking away their accomplishments, belittling their success, sour graping their success. When I tell you, I got so tired of it, and I just said a new video popped up in my feed about someone sour graping college. I'm like, if you don't want to go to college, don't go. But don't tell the people who are successful at it that it doesn't work, because we're going to tell you it does work depending on who you are and what you're doing. And what about people in STEM fields? Are any of those people in STEM fields operating without college degrees? Like, no. You know what I mean? You have to have 2 years something, because I did all of that. I did certifications. I did 2-year programs and technical programs. And let me tell you, you have to have some piece of paper to prove to people that you know how to do whatever you say it is you can do, right? And so at the end of the day, we can't just walk around disparaging what other people are working on, how they're working on it, what they're doing. We have to find value in everybody in some kind of way at any given time, all the time. Because when we do that, we're seeing the humanity in ourselves. And when we assign proper value to other people, thoughtful value, loving, kind, appreciative value for their journey in this life, because everybody's doing it, right? You will find that your own self-confidence and own self-esteem and own self-worth will expand 100 times over, because you're no longer sitting there trying to protect your ego and trying to fit yourself into this little narrow scope of being perfect or being better or being good or being right and all these sort of things. How to get negativity out of your life? Stop being the source of it. Stop being the source of it, and don't be the source of it for other people either. I hope all this was helpful. Have a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful day.